Hunting Down the Dragon, a Worldwide Dragon Shooting Day Tale by Jaime León de la Parra. The Worldwide Dragon Shooting Day event was started by a young boy after he lost his father. To honor his father's memory, this young boy asked his mother for archers all over the world to shoot at dragon targets. These dragon targets serve as a symbol of the emotional pains and struggles that haunt us from the loss of a loved one and other personal tragedies. This event began in 2014 at a local level. By 2016, it had grown to international proportions, with thousands of archers shooting at dragon targets in recognition of children battling their own personal struggles. Drawing from my personal past, the intent in creating this fictional tale is to capture the spirit of the personal journey that many have suffered through, but have overcome. This is a fairy tale for all ages that serves as a reflection of the annual Worldwide Dragon Shooting Day event. I dedicate this tale to Dorothy McElroy, who lost her husband but is giving 100% to raise her son Wyatt, and to Wyatt, who shares a similar burden that I have endured since my 15th birthday. Hunting Down the Dragon. Once upon a time, in a quiet little corner of the woodsy world, there lived a young lad with his mother and infant sibling. They lived a quiet life and struggled to make ends meet ever since the young lad lost his father to a dragon raid a few years ago. Fortunately, the dragon had never been seen again since the incident. Nonetheless, the young lad prepared himself in case a dragon were to ever show up again by learning the art of the bow and arrow. But little did he know that day would come too soon. One unfortunate day, the dragon that had robbed the boy of his father's life swooped down from the sky, completely unannounced and without warning. With horrifying agility, the dragon flew by the dilapidated huts that this little humble forest family called home. The young lad could feel the forceful beating of the dragon's wings as he ran to gather his mother and infant sibling. His only hope was to find them a safe place to hide. Before the family knew it, the mighty dragon was breathing down its destructive fire upon the thatched roof huts. There was no time for anything else except to run for their lives. The giant beast continued to breathe fire upon the family's home. This was the home that the boy helped his father build with their bare hands, and now it was all going up in flames. Once the dragon had its fill of torment and destruction, it vanished without a trace, just as quickly as it had appeared, leaving nothing but fire and smoldering wood in its wake. The little family of three was in a complete state of shock. Despite the young lad taking up the bow and arrow, the dragon proved too swift, powerful, and aggressive for the lad to send an arrow at this tormentor. Despite it all, his mother remained steadfast and thankful that the three of them had survived the ordeal. His mother had already lost her husband, and she was ever so grateful that she still had both of her children. The mother tried to console her son by pointing out that they were very lucky to have survived without any physical harm. They would rebuild their home and get a new start. But the young lad disagreed. Yes, he was grateful that all three had made it with their lives, but something had to be done about this dragon. He knew his bow was too weak to slay the monster, and he also knew that he had a long way to go before he would have the strength and knowledge to kill the beast. It was then that he recalled the legend and stories from long ago about a young boy, much like himself, who had lost his mother to a dragon. But this young boy was able to slay the dragon with a bow and arrow. No one knew how this had been possible. The legend of this boy went on to say that he had grown up to be a soldier, or a sailor, or a mercenary. No one knew for sure, but the young lad told his mother that he would search for this individual. He would seek his help so that the dragon would not hurt them anymore. And off he went. After searching for many days, the young lad was beginning to doubt the purpose of his quest. It was right at that moment, when he was about to turn around and head back home, that he felt as if someone was watching and stalking him. Frantically, he thought that the dragon was sneaking up on him to finish him off. But upon peering behind and through the trees, he realized that it was a man, slowly and stealthily approaching through the brush, carrying a bow and arrows in one hand and a large bladed weapon in the other. The stranger, after quickly realizing that his unsuspecting prey was just a young lad, lowered his weapons, stood up straight, and walked towards him. After a long conversation about who the young lad was, what all had happened to his home and family, and his reason for his quest, the young lad pleaded with the stranger to help him find the fabled boy that he had heard so much about, the same boy that had slain the dragon that had killed his mother. But to the young lad's surprise, the stranger just snickered and stated that those were all just that, legends and tales, stories told to fearful country folks in order to give them hope for when the dragons raid upon their homes and villages. Nevertheless, the stranger felt compassionate towards the young lad and told him that he would hunt this dragon down. All of a sudden, without warning, without any subtle hint or sign, the dragon appeared out of thin air. It was as if the dragon had been waiting for both the young lad and the stranger to be together and caught off guard. The dragon swooped in low with its gaping jaws and arched claws. This dragon was not there to burn anything. It was hungry, and it was there to feast on human flesh. As quickly as the dragon had appeared, so too the stranger swiftly pulled an arrow from his back quiver and ordered the young lad to seek cover from the flying demon. To the young lad's surprise, he watched in amazement as the stranger let loose arrow after arrow at the dragon. The dragon dodged each arrow, flying effortlessly, almost mocking the stranger's skill with a bow, as if the dragon was playing with its soon-to-be food. But it was a dragon's pride and ego that would lead to its downfall, which gave the stranger the advantage that he needed. The stranger knew that this game would not last for long. Soon he would be out of arrows. With one of his last arrows in his quiver, he had to put his fears aside and focus on the smallest part on the dragon's scaly body. Aim small, miss small. The dot within the dot. It was at that moment, when those two phrases flashed through his mind, that he relaxed his bowstring fingers and watched the arrow slip away and hit the dragon. Whether or not it was a lethal hit, the stranger did not know. Nevertheless, the dragon let out a shriek that the stranger had heard only once before, a very long time ago. The dragon seemed to limp away in the sky, bobbing in between trees and crashing through the forest. Without hesitation, the stranger turned to the young lad and told him that he was going after the dragon to track it down and kill it. Before the young lad could say anything, the stranger was gone, like a ghost in the woods. After running miles across fields and streams and climbing over forested hills, the stranger was only able to find the arrow that pierced the dragon's skin. The crimson streaks of blood on his arrow's white-crested shaft informed him that he had indeed wounded the beast, but not mortally. With no luck finding the dragon, the stranger decided to abandon the search. It took days for the stranger to get back to where he had left the young lad. But sure enough, he found the young lad huddled by a fire, right where he had left him. The stranger showed the young lad the arrow with the dragon blood, and told him that if it bleeds, then it can be killed. As they journeyed the long way back to the young lad's family, the stranger went on to explain all the different ways one could bring down a dragon. He also spoke of the knowledge of nature, and how to use it to feed, shelter, and heal oneself. But most importantly, the stranger spoke of the mastery of the self and how one should confront and embrace the fears one feels, not to succumb to them, but to use those fears to learn from them and master them. There was also much talk of the bow and arrow, and of the discipline and dedication that it requires to become proficient with it. The young lad realized that he had much to learn, but he was very eager to do so so that one day he might grow up to become like this stranger that stood up to the dragon. Upon returning to his mother and infant sibling, much to the young lad's amazement, he found that their home had been rebuilt, and not just to the same way it was, but to a higher standard than before. Apparently, some of the local neighbors had heard of what had happened to this little family, so everyone came out from all over with plenty of materials and labor to help build them the best home possible. The mother was overjoyed to see her son. She had feared that she had lost another loved one to the dragon. The young lad went on to tell his mother about his adventures with a stranger. As evidence to what sounded like a tall tale, the young lad showed his mother the stranger's arrow that still had the dragon's blood stain. The mother thanked the stranger for saving her son and bringing him back home. To show their gratitude for what the stranger had done, both the mother and son begged him to stay with them for a few days so that they may feed and shelter him in their new home. But the stranger respectfully declined. As he departed, he said that someone had to go on hunting down the dragon so that all may live in peace and have a happy life. The end. Or is it? Well, that was a lot of fun making, and I really would like to give a shout out to the people that helped me make this happen. To my dear friend John Heffron of the YouTube channel Wingman115 for inviting me to his favorite patch of woods that served as the location for the story photos. Also to Mr. Christopher Earle. He served as the range safety officer and fire controller during the pyro scenes. And to Jodine Connell, who assisted in the construction of the sets and for doing all the editing of the story. And to my good friend Jerry, who motivated me and prompted me to do this, and for putting the audio and slide presentation together. Thank you to all. And especially a big thank you to everyone that took the time to listen to this. May it help to bring compassionate awareness for those that are suffering from the loss of a loved one and living with grief. The WorldWide Dragon Shooting Day is a non-profit organization, and you can find them on all the different social media platforms. And there will be a website coming soon. Thank you.